business owners don't have business problems. They have personal problems that affect their business. And I think when you get down to the bottom of your why, the very core that is not related to anything of your business or any words that are associated with your business, I think people find what they're most passionate about and are able to wield that and serve their clients in a way that doesn't feel like work, that makes you want to share all this amazing information, that provides them with value, and it makes you more approachable. It makes you more trustworthy. It makes other people come to you because of who you are as a person and what unique aspects you have to offer. So that all comes from finding out your why.
Helping hardworking real estate investors, agents, and entrepreneurs grow a better business, mindset, and future. This is the Carrot Cast Podcast. Now here's your host, Trevor Mock.
What's up, y'all? I've actually got my first ever remote in-office podcast, and I'll introduce you to my guest here in a second. I think you guys are going to be amazed by what she's done in the different things that she's tackling right now. It's really cool. In our mastermind here at the Loft, we get together monthly. Those of us who work in this building, we get together monthly and share what we're doing. We share our struggles, we share our wins. And I hit up Sam last month. I'm like, I need to get you on the Carrot Cast because you're doing some really cool things as a newer entrepreneur. And she's got some amazing things that will relate to anybody that I think are going to be really, really high value for y'all. So before I introduce Sam, I want to set some context here. So in 2010, so about 10 years ago, one thing that I did here in Roseburg is I took over this building that we're in now. We call it the Loft. If you've been to Carrot Camp before, you've been in this building, and we always hear people just loving the environment that they're a part of when they come in here to Carrot Camp. And one of my missions with it was to help people grow businesses that matter, grow businesses that impact people, to help people leave jobs that maybe they feel trapped in, or that they want to have a much greater impact with the business. And that's one of the amazing things around the Loft is you start to look at people like Brian Prowitz, who is over there across the building, who started a company, but he was one of those people who was coming into the office, and we'd encourage him about what he could do as an entrepreneur. And not tell him lies about it. Like, it's hard work, right? It's not all unicorns and rainbows. But he started a company, and then he actually started. He started growing his company. He hired Sam, and now Sam has started her company. She's doing amazing, amazing stuff. And we're going to share with you guys her journey, how it relates to you as a real estate investor agent living a better life, and also there's going to be some cool brand therapy stuff we'll dive into today, which would be kind of fun. So, welcome onto the Carrot Cast, Sam. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
For sure. So before we dive into the brand therapy stuff, which I'm really pumped to kind of dig into that'll be really fun. And before we dive into Elope Your Life, the concept that really resonates with me a lot, for sure. And I think it's going to resonate with so many people, whether it's on the Carrot Cast or out there in general. We'll talk about Elope Your Life, the book, and also how that concept can really help people live greater lives. But why don't you tell people, first of all, who are you? What do you do for work right now? Just so people have context for it, because you're not a real estate investor. And that's one of the great things about the Carrot Cast. We want to help you guys live balanced lives and run great businesses. But who are you? What's your business look like? What's your life look like? And then we'll kind of dive into your backstory a little bit after that.
Yeah. So I'm Sam, and I am an adventure elopement photographer. Now, a lot of people talk to me and ask, what the heck is an adventure elopement? I have no idea. Elopement, I know the word, it's running off to a courthouse or whatnot. But essentially, I just specialize in people who want to elope and not have a big traditional wedding, but not just go to the courthouse. They want to make it an experience. They want to make it just as special, if not more special, than a traditional wedding day with 150 guests or what have you. So with that, they typically end up in really amazing places, really places that speak to them, really resonate with them, or places they've always wanted to visit, sort of like bucket list things. So I am really lucky that my job allows me and lets me travel pretty much the world and be an adventure guide and sort of their own personal park ranger, because I have experience in that in the past. Yep. And get to travel the world and help couples create amazing wedding days that spill over into the rest of their lives.
And that's one of the coolest things. When I first learned what you were doing after you had started working with Brian, and I knew you were starting your own thing out of it. You've been doing this for years, but I went to your website, looked at some of your pictures, looked at your Instagram, and you're in some amazing locations. And it's usually just you and the couple, and you're officiating oftentimes or all the time. And it's such a cool thing because, like you said, I know your story. People will be able to hear your story here on this podcast. And like I said, y'all, the reason I brought Sam on is not so you can learn more about investing, so you can learn more about yourself. I want you guys to leave this episode of the Carrot Cast with a better understanding of ways that you can live a greater life, with a better understanding that you can kind of unshackle yourself from the norms and the standards that people put us in, whether it's a wedding or whether it's something else. And so, Sam, what are some of those locations that you have done with some of your couples? There's some cool ones.
Yeah. So last September, I went to Kauai with a couple, and we did a nearly 4-hour horseback ride. They rode up to the mountains with a guide. We dismounted. We had a picnic, and they said their vows with their horses on either side of them. I went to Alaska, got my COVID test and everything. Went to Alaska in July, and we not only visited a glacier the day before their big day. We met up on their elopement day. We went to a reindeer farm, and we hiked up a mountain and visited a historic mine up outside of Anchorage. So those are just a couple of the places. I just got back from Moab, Utah for some adventures. And at some point I have couples booked for Greece and potentially Scotland in the future. So, depending on when COVID lets up and all that jazz.
That is way cool. So, Sam, I want to kind of go back to your backstory a little bit now. So, you just turned 30. So congratulations, not too long ago, and you're getting started on the entrepreneur thing early, which is amazing. And so, what did you do before what you're doing now, and kind of what led you into wanting to do photography and wanting to go into the elopement part of it specifically?
Yeah, so I think that has a lot to do with my Enneagram number. And if you don't know your Enneagram number, I would highly encourage looking it up. Take the test. It's free online. It really gives you a lot of insight about yourself, both good and bad. And as an Enneagram 3, they call you the achiever, and not necessarily that you're achieving all these great things, but you want to be seen as successful, but you have a very hard time understanding what is fulfilling to you. So you do things that other people view as successful because that is how you view worth. And we're getting real deep into it, but I feel like it's completely relevant and the basis of everything. So, I went to school. I thought I was going to be an attorney. I originally got my bachelor's in international affairs with a focus in peace and conflict studies. So I've studied abroad. I wanted to work the WHO, USAID, any of those places. And then I ended up getting an internship in something completely unrelated. I ended up being a park ranger, and I ended up being a naturalist on a whale watching vessel on the Oregon coast. So done all these things just because of my outdoors upbringing. I had that experience. And then from there, I did work at a law firm. And, from there, it became, I worked at BP Media in the loft. And a lot of these things were me doing things because, yes, I enjoyed them, but other people saw them as successful. And I had done part-time wedding photography since probably about 2013, 2014. And just an opportunity had presented itself to go full-time right around the time I got married. And I had originally wanted to elope. So that's kind of where this whole thing started. And I realized that there were other people like me. When, my husband wanted a larger wedding, and a lot of that was because family and societal expectations. And so I finally realized after I had been, we got married and I had been doing wedding photography, and someone came along that said, can't we just get married at a waterfall? And I said, well, why not? And that's where it started. I stumbled into this, realizing that there were other people like me. And that's how I was able to find something that I truly, truly, truly love doing. It doesn't feel like work every day.
So here's one of the cool things about it, Sam, and we're going to dig into this even more. And this is one of the reasons, y'all, that I want you guys to listen to this, because a lot of real estate investors and agents, I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of them they'll start the business because they see the opportunity for the income, right? Which is great, and income's great. But the problem is also all too often we don't tie then that business to something that matters to us. It's usually, well, it's an income stream for us. And then you start to look at, well, why do I want to continue doing the business? Well, you probably are just looking at growing more income, which eventually is very, very empty. And one thing that Sam had mentioned there, but we're going to tease out big time when we go to the brand therapy part of it, and how you guys can look at your own brands, look at your own companies as an agent or an investor, and start to go through a process that Sam went through with the coaches she worked with to really pull out your big why. Like, what is your why? Why the heck are you doing it? You heard a little bit of hers there, but I want to reverse back here a little bit. So one thing, and this relates to any business, I think it's so cool, is photography is a huge industry. And here's the deal. All it takes to be a photographer is someone with a camera. And now even sometimes some of these cell phones can do a lot of it. And so it's as competitive, if not more competitive, than being a real estate agent or being a real estate investor or whatever it is, right? And so one thing that you did that worked really well, Sam, is you niched, right? You said, well, there's a million things I could do photos on. Wedding niches or wedding photos is a niche. And a lot of people, that's as far as they would niche down, because they're like, well, weddings are great. And there's a lot of them. And even that niche, some people are afraid of to just do weddings, right? But you went a step further and you said, not just weddings, but this niche of a niche of a niche within weddings. And honestly, I think because you've done that, you're more successful because you're carving out that niche. So I want to toss that your way. Were you nervous at all about niching down so heavily on whether it would work or not into the elopement wedding photography part of it?
Yeah. So I had realized that these were the types of photography captures that I really was passionate about, and not just about the photography aspect, but about the planning, the encouragement beforehand. I was their personal hype gal. And I was worried at the beginning, and I had managed to find other people that were like me and were doing adventure elopements. And now it has exploded as an industry, but a couple of people and I were sort of on the ground floor of it. I probably came in just right after the ground floor was being laid. And I was worried at the beginning because I come from Roseburg, Oregon. I was born and raised here, went to college and stuff, but I came back and everyone around here does everything. They are a jack of all trades. And they even had, many of them even had problems with income. And so I was very, very worried. I was very worried, but your demographics often change when you niche down. And now I was so worried about not getting business in town. But now I do virtually no business in town with anybody locally, but people find me from across the country, across the world. I have couples from Canada, Northern Ireland, all these places. And so, yes, it's scary, but you are an expert in what you do. And if you dig far enough, deep down, you will show that expertise and people will come to work with you.
And the cool thing about it too is like with this niche specifically, and I'm speaking to real estate agents here big time, investors also, but the reason I wanted to tease this out is because a lot of real estate agents are afraid to niche. They're like, well, I'm an agent in Roseburg and that's my niche. Like, that's not a niche. You and the other 700 agents here or whatever. But what if the agent was to say, I'm an agent for young families who want to start a family or whatever it is and love the outdoors. And then there's probably 5 or 6 big neighborhoods in town where those are perfect for that. And just like get to be the best agent for those towns as possible, or for that part of town as possible. Learn that area better than anyone else. Become the biggest expert on it. Be the biggest evangelist on it. The person who absolutely loves it to core because that's what you care about the most, not because it's a business strategy. And I think that's one of the big things that Sam chased this because it was something she cared about, not just because it was a business strategy. It feels like later you're like, oh, I think I can make a business out of doing this thing that I'm really passionate about, which is way cool. So all you real estate agents out there and investors who think you guys can't niche and it's going to limit your potential, it actually expands your potential when you can be a bigger fish in a small pond versus trying to be a small pond in a big fish. Okay. Or the other, you know what I'm talking about. Small fish in big pond. Okay. So, I want to, this isn't something I was planning on talking with you about, but you mentioned you get customers from all over the place. How do they find you?
Yeah. So I utilize a ton of strategies on the internet. So I have a really good SEO. I also have really good Pinterest presence because my photos naturally have a lot of content for something that's so visually heavy. So I post all those things. I link them to my website. I create content based on my niche. So with investors, I can think of just off the top of my head, people want an expert in something. And so you can do so many things, young families. Why not show me the unique challenges that a young family faces and all this different stuff. All this knowledge that you have is great content. Yeah. And that's what I use for me. And it's anywhere from how to tell friends and family you're eloping to best places to elope in Oregon to, oh my goodness, which Hawaiian island should you elope to? So I use all those via Pinterest and I reuse my content. With my book, with blog posts, I break them down and reuse them into snippets for Instagram captions. That sort of thing. So most people find me via the internet. Obviously, Google is my strongest referral, and then probably Pinterest, just because of so many resources.
So this is so awesome. Like I said, I wasn't planning on talking about this. Then we're going to transition to Elope Your Life. But the thing that we focus in here at Carrot is we talk about evergreen marketing versus hamster wheel marketing. And the other type of marketing works, right? Picking up the phone, doing cold calling works. Going out there and pounding the pavement, knocking on doors works. Sam, if you wanted to, you could go out there, knock on every door and ask people if they have someone who's getting married, and that would probably work. Paid ads work. They're all great things, but they're things that when you do them, they work for a period of time. Like they work while you're doing them, and then they have a short shelf life. As soon as you stop doing that thing, as soon as you stop posting on Instagram 14 times a day or knocking on doors or cold calling, your results are going to go away. And that's a way to be really stressful with your business because you don't have the consistency. You can't go on that 3-week vacation, a month vacation, have leads continue to come in. And so it's really cool that you do what we call evergreen marketing, right? Like you're creating content that solves the problem of your prospects. You're putting it online, not just on Pinterest. So Pinterest is a great tool, not just on Instagram. Those are great, but you put it on Google where it lives and breathes and people continually, like the most motivated people continually find you over and over and over again. And that gives you freedom. So guys and gals, this is something, if you've heard me talk about evergreen marketing like a million times by now and you haven't bought into it because the hamster wheel marketing seems so attractive that you can get some results coming in quick by a cold call or doing a direct mail pop, I can tell you're going to get more freedom doing exactly what Sam talked about by putting amazing content online, getting it ranked well in Google, and then amplifying it to social. But make Google your authority, make your website your authority hub of all of your content, and then it goes out from there. That's awesome, Sam. I love the fact that you're using content in that way. So I want to dive into the concept of Elope Your Life now. So you had talked about your journey where you had the bigger wedding. You didn't want to deep down, but then you found that a lot of other people were the same way. And you then had a chance with your business to drive forward and help those other brides and other grooms to have what they wanted instead of what other people wanted, right? And so where did this Elope Your Life concept come up? Because the same thing can be applied to other things other than weddings, right? So where did it come up? And then what are some other ways that people can or should start to leverage the same way of thinking in their life to get out of those same patterns that are kind of the societal norms?
Yeah. So how it started was I was talking with my brand therapist, and we'll get into that eventually, but we really dug into my why. And my particular why was I don't want people to feel like I did on my wedding. I went home and I cried after my wedding. I broke down and cried. And I also really dug deeper than that. Something that I believe everyone's why at its core is not about their job, their business. So I believe at their core, it's not about elopement photos or even cherishing the memories or whatever, or finding someone a great home or like lowering their stress while they're, finding a home. None of that. And so I was talking with my brand therapist, and I we were just talking about how amazing people are and talking about how everyone is so unique and you can't compare yourself. So we were talking about the comparison game. Yeah. And, ultimately, I just wish everyone knew that they were so incredibly unique. And I want to just lightly shake people and tell them awesome. because you can't compare yourself to someone who isn't in your exact same shoes, who doesn't look exactly like you, have the same life experiences, which are also shaped by how you look. And so, that came to me and I said, why can't people just take the empowerment, the confidence, the self-growth and the transformation that it takes to elope and stand up to anybody. I call them Aunt Carols. Sorry for anyone named Carol, but Aunt Carols who feel like they want to tell you how to have your wedding and stand up to those societal norms and expectations and do that with the rest of their life. Why just stop at your wedding? And I was talking to a friend and I was like, can we just elope, but do it with the rest of your life? And they said, you mean elope your life? And so I wasn't the first person that actually said it. And they're like, no, that's dumb. And I'm like, no, I think that's really great. So that's sort of where it came from. And it's really amazing how it can be applied to other things.
So let's kind of dive down and we'll kind of riff here a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you have like a list of things that jump to mind for you, but what are some of those other things that you've either experienced or you've seen or that people should think about that might be prime for them? Like, all right, let's use the elopement concept, y'all, and get out of that pattern. What are some other spots that you think people should be looking at?
Yeah. So I'm going to start big because that's what people love to hear. And those are the most impactful, but I also think really, really small things are very impactful. So big things. And this eloping your life is not only doing things and standing up to people, it's really at its core going outside of your comfort zone to challenge yourself and have yourself grow and become a more complex person and ultimately be the person who you were meant to be, I believe. And so you can do big things. I had a woman who was a pharmacist. She eloped and we were talking about elope your life. And she said, you know what? Yeah, I want to do this. I've always wanted to share information, but I'm scared of public speaking. So she eloped her life and she registered to speak at a pharmacy conference. And I think that is just so amazing, conquering your fear of public speaking. I have someone else who said she was just really tired with her job and didn't find value in it and was just really drained. And we had talked about it. And I asked, what do you want to do? And we really asked about her why. And she said, I'd really like to go back to school and do this, but it's too late. I said, it's not too late. Yeah. So about 2 months after she eloped, she messaged me and said, oh my gosh, Sam, I'm doing this. I'm going back to school. And so a couple of big things, you can do skydiving if you're scared, anything big, but there's also very equally important small things. I have a friend and a couple who previously eloped with me. She always wanted hair extensions, but she thought, oh, people are going to look at me and think I'm vain or think I'm conceited or whatnot. But she just wanted them to make herself feel pretty and she really enjoyed them. And, she stopped letting other people and other expectations of how people would react dictate what she did. And she went and got hair extensions. People who don't want to go out to the movies solo or take themselves on a solo date because they don't want people to look at them because society says going out solo, that's weird. Yeah. And they do. And it's the big things and it's the little things. The list of examples are endless.
So one of the cool things that I want to highlight there for everybody is at the end of the day, it's taking something where in your core, you want to do this thing and you're looking at those outside of you and saying, well, because of what I think that they might think, I'm not going to do this thing that I really want to do. And let's even look in this building, right? Like as an example, if we take that elopement concept, eloping out of their job into a business, right? Brian, you, Cody Kellum, the Born and Raised Outdoors guys. I remember when I hit him up on Facebook, and he was still working at North River Boats, and we got to talking like, what do you want to do with your life, and what do you want to do with this side business you got that's you're shooting hunting videos on YouTube. He's like, I really just want to do that. I want to do that full time, but I have no clue how to do it. And I have a good job. I get, have good insurance. And then he ended up leaving that job to go full time into it. And it might not have worked, but it worked amazingly well. And they have a full staff of people now, an amazing 7-figure business. and they love it. So, and I'm going to encourage you guys in this too. If you're a real estate agent or investor on here, or anybody at all, even if you are an investor or agent, and if you're like, I don't like this, I just really am doing it because the money seemed good, or I'm doing it because my mom was an agent and I should probably be an agent too. If you don't really want to do that and you want to go be an elopement photographer in some other spot out of Roseburg, or if you want to go do whatever the heck you want to do, guys and gals, don't wait for that. Like, do that now, because that's where you're going to find the most joy in your life. That's where you're going to add the most value to others in your life. That's where you're going to be fired up the most. And it like kills me inside when I see people as they get older and older, and older to me isn't necessarily like in age. It's more of that they are aging. I've got some really, really good friends that I went to college with, and they're already in a spot where they're locked into where they're going to be for the next till they retire. Which is great if that's what they want. But I know that at least a couple of them, that's not what they want, because we've had talks about those things, but they weren't willing to take that step and elope and really, really bet on themselves. So I want you guys to bet on yourselves and really take that step. Don't live your life for others, y'all. Live your life, and you're going to actually amplify and make their life better when you live your best life in a big way. So I want to talk about this brand therapy. So actually, before we do, Elope Your Life, you have a book on it, and it just came out, which I'm so proud of you, because I know there's several books flying around that people are writing in the building. I've got one that I've been working on for like 12 years, it seems like, but it's actually going to happen now. You inspired me on it, just seeing how fast you got it done, and you just put it out. And I know there's Seth, wrote a book, and he's writing another book now. So it's really cool seeing what's happening here in the loft. But number one, where can people find the book Elope Your Life? And is it mainly about eloping for weddings? Kind of what's the overall topic of it, and where can people find it?
Yeah. So Elope Your Life is the overall concept. There's a couple of different parts in it. So yes, it has a lot of actionable items if you want to elope, but cool. There's also a good portion that is really more self-help empowerment and talking about why would you squash your spectacular self? What brings you joy? What fills your cup? And there are other testimonials and stories in the back of the book, including my husband's. And I really enjoyed reading his portion. He's a great writer, and they talk about their elopement experience, but also how that has affected them in the rest of their lives. So I feel like everyone can get a little something out of this book. Yep. And it's available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, on Powell's. You can go to my website, elopyourlife.com, and there's a ton of links there. You can also buy it directly on that website as well.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about brand therapy stuff, because this is something I love. Brand. I love digging into, making sure that business matters. And that's something I challenge our clients on a lot, Sam, is I don't want someone's monthly payment if they're doing a business because they think it's just a means to an end for income, and if they're just doing it because they're wanting to chase a bigger income goal but they're miserable, like that to me is the worst thing in the world. Our stated mission that we're going to be revising here, but this is the one we're working into, is I really want to help people build businesses that create freedom for themselves and those around them, and to help people make an impact. And so with the brand therapy part, number one, what is it? And then kind of walk us through the process that you went through with the coach, the consultant you went through, because there was a really, really cool outcome. It took the business from, hey, here's kind of the normal way that someone would write a mission statement or think about it, to, oh my gosh, this thing hits me at my core and actually drives forward on my purpose in life. So what was the process like, and what is a brand therapist?
Yeah. So I worked with a man, Robert J. Hill. He also has a Facebook group, which is his Work Less, Make More Facebook group, if you look it up. And he was a wedding photographer and turned brand therapist. And he sort of coined that term, or other people coined the term because they worked with him. And that was the best way to describe how they evolved with working with him. So at your core is your why. And we worked really, really in depth with it, talking about descriptors that you would use to describe yourself that are polarizing, then that are emotional, and that are also social. So, and there's polarizing, what would make people not go to a party if you were there? Social, what words would to describe you would make people want to go to a party? Why would they invite you to the party? And then like emotional, what would people say about you when you're gone? How would they say you impacted their life or how you made them feel? And so we really got down into those, and those help with my mission statement. One of mine is I help fun and free-spirited couples craft emotional, dramatic stories in bold places. And so that really helps draw in people with those words, and you sort of can fill in the blanks. But and we got down to my why, and there was crying involved. And I firmly, everyone who has done brand therapy has cried. So don't be ashamed to cry. But we just worked through why elopements, and said, well, I want people to feel pretty, and all the typical photographer answers. And we just talked one day, and it clicked, because we were talking about something that wasn't even photography related. And I said, I just wish everyone knew how amazing they are, and that they cannot compare themselves to somebody else, because you're talking about two different sets of criteria, two different sets of starting blocks. And I started getting emotional on it, because I know that I suffer from that myself. I feel like everyone does. And I said, I don't want anyone to feel like I did on my wedding day. And I want people to know that they can just do anything, because they are who they are. And that's what makes them beautiful and unique. And so there was this silence, and he said, I think you found your why. So and it's really, really amazing. Robert says, and I firmly believe this, that business owners don't have business problems. They have personal problems that affect their business. And I think when you get down to the bottom of your why, the very core that is not related to anything of your business or any words that are associated with your business, I think people find what they're most passionate about and are able to wield that and serve their clients in a way that doesn't feel like work, that makes you want to share all this amazing information, that provides them with value, and it makes you more approachable. It makes you more trustworthy. It makes other people come to you because of who you are as a person and what unique aspects you have to offer. So that all comes from finding out your why.
Oh my gosh. So I absolutely love this right here. And I've had the similar experience, Sam, where, it's so funny. I don't cry much, right? Like I'm a German Catholic, come from a German Catholic farm family, right? It's like my grandpa, my dad said he never saw him cry one time in his whole life. I've never seen my dad cry. And I think my wife has only seen me cry a couple times, but I've broke up probably 5 or 6 times in front of my team at Carrot, which is the weirdest thing in the world. It catches me off guard, but now people just expect it. And every time it is, Sam, and this is something I want people to really latch onto, whatever you do in work, if you work for somebody else or if you own your own business, is the moment that you find yourself getting emotional about how you impact people, like go with it, like figure out why it is. Oh my gosh, because in that moment, like you're saying, you found and discovered, oh my gosh, I'm emotional because I feel so strongly about making that impact with people, that's what your business should fuel. Like that is what your business should fuel. And I think a lot of people, especially, in the real estate profession, because it's such a numbers game, they have a hard time mashing their life's purpose together with their business. It's almost like, well, I've got this company that does this stuff and numbers are cool. And hopefully I do more numbers next year and whatever. But then they've got the personal part of it over here, and they don't figure out how they can mash the two together to make the business actually fuel the passion. And every single time I'm at a company retreat in person, and hopefully ever get back to those things, we always have like some sort of a video or we read a customer story. And I'll read the thing, And it's about the transformation that the person had. And the ones that get me the most are exactly like what you said, Sam. It's the same story that I had. It's like my story, and I don't want other people to go through and replicate the same story there. Now, are a lot of people have it way worse off than I? 100%. Okay. Like there's people with a much harder, a story that is just heartbreaking. I've been very lucky, but at the same time, there's so many people out there that have a similar story that I do, and someone needs to serve them and help them through it. And that's where I want people to look at it. It's like your story. You don't have to, you don't have to have grown up in a slum somewhere and then grown into a spot where you're like, oh man, I turned it from this to that. Whatever your story is, there's other people just like you that need help through it. And so for me, I'd started a company that, I had this entrepreneurial dream where I'm like, man, the business is going to hopefully set me free, because that's what all the people said. When you start a business, you're an entrepreneur, you have freedom and flexibility and like all this kind of stuff. And I had a business that I'd built and I was proud of it, but it completely trapped me. Like it trapped me from the outside in. Everyone looked at me and like, they thought that I had it made, and I did in hindsight. Like I just wasn't grateful. But in that job that I'd created for myself, I was miserable. I wasn't doing things that gave me energy. I started actually thinking about going and getting a job, because I'm like, I could actually be way better if I just collected a paycheck and didn't have this pressure. And my business doesn't feel like it's driving me towards any real purpose or passion I care about. And I went through this transformation. I figured out how to grow a company that truly gave me purpose, that truly made an impact, that truly was the vehicle for changing other people's lives, to get people out of businesses that trap them into businesses that really fuel them and fuel a purpose and passion. And every time I read those stories where there's that transformation, hey, I didn't like my job and I felt completely down in the dumps, or I felt completely, discouraged, or I started the business and I didn't have time for my family, didn't have time for my kids. My kids would be looking at me, asking who their dad is because he was never home. I'm like, if I can help that person get out of that and there's something over here, that's life changing. And so I want you guys to dive deep on that. I want to toss back over to you here in a second, Sam, but I want everyone to listen to exactly what Sam said. There are some questions that she said that she was asked. Go back and listen to that portion of this podcast and hear and see what those questions are. Ask yourself those same questions, or have someone ask you those questions, and then start to just go down that rabbit hole. As soon as you find something that just tugs at you, keep on going down it. And it's likely that you want to work with people like you and help them to prevent, or help them to learn what you learned, or avoid what you went through. Work with those people, be passionate about it, and write that in your mission. Don't just write, I want to be the best real estate agent in town. And don't just write, I want to help people find amazing homes. That's great. Like all agents should do that. All investors should do that. It's like table stakes. But why the heck are you doing it personally? I can tell you it's going to fuel you. So I want to ask you this question. You have the book. You have a newfound purpose that you're very clear about. I guess it's not newfound, you're just clear on it now. Business isn't always easy. There's a lot of times where it's really hard. Things don't get the momentum that you hope, or whatever. How does having that why now for you help to pull you through those times that are a lot harder versus before you had it clarified?
Yeah, so I'm so much more confident now. And of course, everyone still has those days. And I feel like that's perfectly normal. And I feel like it should be okay to accept that everyone's got those. But I'm so much more confident now in what I have to offer, because I am not like the other, I don't have 10,000, 30,000 followers on Instagram. I have a decent amount, but I'm not Instagram famous, and, a lot of people compare themselves that way. But I also know I have something unique to offer that they don't, and likewise, vice versa. And people will come to you for what you bring to the table. And what better way to bring something unique to the table than to bring yourself? And no one can compare to that. There's just absolutely no way. And that helps me a ton, to the point where you might not be comfortable saying things like this, but now I say on my website, on my homepage, eloping is not about the photos.
Yeah.
And as a photographer, I said, eloping is not about the photos. It's about the fact that you can craft a day become self-empowered. You can grow. You can become the person who you were meant to be and use that as a catalyst to transform the rest of your life. So as a real estate investor or an agent, this comes to mind. Buying a home is not about the home.
Yep.
It's not.
Gotcha.
Think of it that way. Think about
Gotcha.
a deeper message. And so I'm very comfortable saying things like that. And when the inquiries, so let's say I haven't had an inquiry in about 3 or 4 weeks, and things are cyclical. And sometimes I'm like, little bit of a ghost town, but I know things are going to pick up because people still find me and people still love what I have to offer, even if they don't like things on Instagram or share things on Pinterest. I've had people come to me and say, I really loved what you said and that really resonated with me. And I went back, they didn't like the post, but they're still out there looking and still out there seeing. And so those things, once that I found my why, I'm just so much more confident in what I have to offer because it is so unique and it comes from me. So, that's what it is.
I absolutely love it. And one thing you dropped was gold right there, where you're talking about the elopement. It's not about the photos, and buying a home is not about the house. That is really, really good, y'all. So I want you guys to let that sink in. So if you're an agent in this case, or once again, investor too, but we'll go with an agent on this one. Most agents are hyper focused on the house. Like that's the marketing that they do. Look at this thing. And what happens when you guys do that is you're commoditizing yourself. You're fully commoditizing yourself and your service because there's a million other people who can help them get that house. Okay. There's a million other people who can take a photo. There's a million other people who can do those things. But what Sam is saying, this isn't about photos. This is about creating a life experience that's going to last way longer and it's going to transform you inside. How much more valuable is that than just a photo? It's so much more valuable than a photo. Someone might be willing to spend, I'm making it up, but someone might be willing to spend $2,000 for wedding photos or $3,000. But what are they willing to invest? And you notice I changed that, spend versus invest. What are they willing to invest in order for a life-changing moment that lives on forever? And there's some amazing photos that go with it too. Like that's completely different. So think about that on the real estate side of it. Okay, yes, you are helping them get that home. That's a part of the experience. But what are they really getting? Like, what are they really getting for their family? Are they gaining freedom? Are they gaining, an amazing spot to grow their family? Are they gaining memories? Like, what really pull back as an agent and within your niches and the person you want to focus in on, write down what is it that I'm truly helping them get? It's not just a home. That's part of it. What is it I'm truly helping them get? And then work that into your marketing. I think that's great, Sam. Thank you. That's awesome. So you've got the book. Like I said, I want people to go to elopeyourlife.com. Even if you aren't planning on eloping or aren't planning on getting married, go grab the book because you're going to be able to leverage so many of the things that Sam's talked about into just your everyday life. And then also, everybody knows someone who's getting married, especially right now in COVID. I think elopement is probably like the biggest thing ever right now because people can't gather and get 200 people in a room. Are you finding that might be a trend that starts to pick up more and more as we go, where people can't do the big weddings?
I think it's sort of been a little bit of a catalyst. I also have seen two different types of elopers, and the first ones are what I call the Plan B elopers, the COVID elopers, and a lot of those people want that big wedding and they're like, but I just want to get it done. I just want to be married. And so they do what I sort of call the Deadpool minimum effort experience. They don't want an experience. And so they just want to, minimal baseline of everything, photos, meals, everything. But then there are those people who said, yes, COVID is the perfect excuse to do what we've always wanted to do. And those people I have found have said, what you said speaks to us on such a level. I start at a significantly higher price than many photographers, and people will book me 2 months out and say, this is the experience we're looking for. We didn't even know it. And so I think it has shown light on the possibilities of breaking societal norms and how it's a very valid alternative to live your life and to start your relationship together.
I love it. So guys and gals, if you guys know anyone who is looking to get married, go to elopeyourlife.com, share them the website, buy the book, give them the book. I would absolutely love to see more people living that experience. And Sam is an amazing, amazing person. She works all over the world. So it's not just Roseburg, anywhere. She's got amazing stuff. So Sam, I appreciate you hopping on here with us on the Carrot Cast, sharing your story. There's so many little nuggets that are relatable to anybody, especially in business too. And kind of what's next for you? You got the book that just recently came out. What's next for you?
I'm involved in a lot of community things in town. I am just working on empowering people. I've also got, I'll be speaking at TEDx Roseburg in April. So I'm really excited about that, to share more about Elope Your Life. And I'm just really excited to continue to grow, potentially build team members, like a team, an Elope Your Life team in the future. Yep. So lots of big stuff going on right now, but I'm just excited to see where it all goes.
Cool. Sam Starns, appreciate it, guys. elopyourlife.com. Grab the book on Amazon and go follow her on Instagram too, because I think you're going to be inspired by her photos and her message. And I just love your energy, Sam. That's one of the things I absolutely love about having you in this building is your energy is amazing. It's infectious. And I think people are feeling it through the airwaves here. So guys and gals, subscribe to this podcast, give a rating and review in Apple Podcasts and Spotify if they do that. And appreciate you guys. Have an amazing rest of the week. Sam, thanks for joining.
Yeah, bye, guys.